So hello, welcome to our emotions clinic this December. I am Anisa Lewis and I am a positive parenting coach. My background is education, and so I have, 25 years I've been in education. In fact, more than that now, actually. I was an early years specialist, but since starting my business about 8.5, 9 years ago, I specialize now in all ages. All ages. I work mostly one-to-one with young people as well as parents. But ultimately, my passion is to help you to raise happy and confident children, no matter what the challenge is that is going on for you and your family right now. So thank you so much for already getting involved in the chat box. Please do keep that going. Obviously, if you're watching the replay, you are not able to get involved in the chat box. That's okay. If you've got any takeaways or you want to ask any questions, please just reach out to me either via my website, anisalewis.com, or you can send me an email at hello@anisalewis.com. Someone's just asking about how we watched it back. After this, I will download it, the recording, I put it up onto YouTube, and then I send you an email with the link so that you can watch it back if you would like, as well as sharing it with anybody else you feel might like to see it, because I do understand that it's a lunchtime talk. Not everybody can make that. So, okay. So we are here today to talk about emotions. I know from being in the school and classroom that this time of year is really a high emotional time. We've got end of term itis, as I like to call it. We've got everything going on. Routines are out of whack. Lots of lovely things in there, but this can bring heightened emotions. Also, the excitement of the festive season, just knowing that they're going to be seeing friends and family and all that kind of stuff can also bring emotions on. I've also, thank you very much to those who filled out the questionnaire for me when you signed up for this. I also understand that some of you on this call have had a bereavement within the school, so my heart goes out to you and your children, obviously, and to the family of that teacher who passed away. So I'll try and weave in some things in there as well, but there is lots of stuff going on for our children. I think what's important to note here is there is not one solution that is going to work. And although I do view myself at times as a fairy godmother, I don't have a magic wand that is going to fix it overnight. But I do have some tips and tricks up my sleeve that I really do hope will help you to help your children manage and regulate their emotions better. What I do ask is at the end, I'm going to ask you to all share sort of one thing that you're going to take away from today. What I know is that we are all busy. If you're anything like me, your things to do list has got baby things to do lists, and they're just multiplying all over the place. And with all the goodwill in the world, you will come away from this clinic going, oh, I love that idea. And oh, that's such a good idea. Oh, I want to go away and think about that. And then life will hit. And so I really encourage you to think of one thing that you want to take forward, which is going to be your focus. You can then have backup one things, but once you've sort of established that one thing, then you can move on to the next thing. Some of these tools that I'm going to talk about will be more suitable for the younger ones, some of them more suitable for your older children, and some of them you'll just have to make a judgment on what is going on for your family right now. I think, I think the ability to regulate emotions is very much largely dependent on age, developmental point of your child, but also if they have any additional needs. And I know, again, from the questionnaires you filled out, a lot of you are going through assessment processes with your children, or possibly they already are, having had a diagnosis. As I said earlier, I'm a mother to a 16-year-old daughter who is absolutely amazing, but we have just recently had an autism diagnosis. So not only is it the children I work with within my clinic, I'm going through it within my home as well. And yeah, we've had some big emotions in the last couple of days. So I think, there are natural points where emotions are going to come out more. And that is sort of like the toddler years, 2, 3, 4, where they're really fighting for independence. We then, in theory, go through a bit of a sort of a hiatus of loveliness, and then the tween years hit, which can be anywhere between 7 to 10, 11, and we get hormone hits and the emotions are more on high alert then. And then obviously we move into the teenage years, which is can be very emotional for children. It cannot as well. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to put everybody into a box because that's not what I'm about. But have a think about what's going on for your children. And is it a developmental stage, or is it overwhelm? Is it stimulation? What could it be? I really, really encourage parents to put up what I call a curiosity radar. So to be curious rather than judgmental, which is a great quote by Walt Whitman even. And it really does work so nicely for parenting, because I think when our children are showing big emotions, we can at times be quite judgmental. Why are they doing that? They've got everything they need. I'm here for them, on all the rest of it. But actually what I like to do is encourage parents to look at emotions as the tip of the iceberg. What is going on underneath the surface? What you're seeing on the outside probably isn't a true indication of what is going on under the surface, unless you know that something specific has happened, which I know in a few of your cases that you absolutely do know what's going on and what's triggered the emotions, and therefore we can put things in to help. So, someone's saying, possibly hidden emotions around high school and nervousness and all that kind of stuff. Quite often, children don't know how to articulate what's going on, so you will get the meltdowns, or you will get the firing back at you. I think quite a lot of that is you've got to make a judgment whether it is your child seeking attention. Children want your attention. They want your attention for anything that they can get it from, but they will have learned that they will get it if they behave in a certain way, or they say a certain thing, or you get an inkling that something's going on, you will swoop in. So be really mindful of what you are giving your children attention to, because obviously as loving parents and carers, or teachers, because I know we've got teachers on this call as well, we want our children to want the attention because of positive things. However, if they've learned that they have a meltdown in the middle of the supermarket, that gets your attention, that's what they're going to keep feeding. Or if they've learned that hitting their brother or sister will have you swooping in, that's what they're going to keep doing. And so it's about thinking about how are you giving your children attention. The other thing, and I think especially, well, actually I was going to say for the teenagers, but actually I think it works just as nicely for the little ones as well. It's around this idea of control. So at the end of the day, you're in your little bubble of control, and you can control your words, your deeds, your actions, how you choose to have fun, your friendships. All of those kind of things are within your control. Your child is in their bubble of control, trying to do exactly the same thing. And quite often, with a toddler fighting for independence, or a teenager fighting for independence, especially around screens and feeling like, they're out of control of their world, what's happening is your bubble and their bubble is coming up against each other and is sort of doing this, and you're getting the pop and the fizz and the explosions from that control. So what I would say as parents is that it's a fine line between control and influence. How are you trying to influence your child by putting a boundary in place, or how are you trying to control the situation? So for example, you want your child to wear a skirt or a pair of trousers because you're going out, it's snowing, it's cold, it's whatever. The boundary you're putting in place is you have to wear a pair of trousers. You don't care whether it's green, blue, pink, whatever, that doesn't bother you. That is your influence. The boundary is you need to wear trousers. The influence is pick whichever one you want from your wardrobe and crack on. So that's sort of a little illustration on influence, although I could probably speak for quite a long time about that subject. So what I want us to think about is, sorry, I'm still letting people in, this is quite exciting. So is emotions are really, really abstract concepts. Yes, they get happy. Yes, they understand sad, but joy, excitement, frustration, overwhelm, courage, bravery, all of those kind of things, patience, are really big ideas and concepts that our kids don't always understand. Anger is another big one. And so what I encourage you to do is when your children are feeling these emotions is to use a simple set of phrases which just acknowledges what's going on for them and helps to make the abstract more concrete. So the start of the phrases are, I see, I hear, I understand. And all you're going to do after that is state facts. You're just going to state what you're seeing in front of you. I see you're angry. I understand you're frustrated because I've asked you to do X, Y, and Z. I can hear that you are feeling emotional. And at that point, your child will either go, oh, they understood me. They've given what's going on for me a name, or they'll come back at you and go, no, I'm not. I'm whatever it is. And then you can use it as a way of dialoguing what they are actually feeling and what you then can do to step in. I think what we can do to identify emotions is really important. So with the younger children, books are wonderful. There's some great books out there. And in the email I'm going to send you after this, I've got some recommended ones about emotions and all the rest of it. Do with that list what you would like. You probably have many of them at your home as well. What I find harder is for the teenagers because the books are all a bit babyish or it's not quite right. And this is where you really need to do role modeling about perhaps your own emotions. You know, I'm feeling frustrated because I had a really tricky work meeting and I just don't know how to act with it. So you are role modeling your own frustration and then how to regulate or deal with it in appropriate manner. With the teenagers, you may, or the tweens as well, you may want to use books they're reading, TV programs that they watch, or perhaps even musical figures in order to help identify what's going on. So that's, you know, when you're cuddled up watching TV or even just sat on the sofa watching TV, perhaps identifying some of the emotions that are going on in front of you might be a really constructive thing for you to talk about with your children. What I quite like is I quite like vocab jars. So wonderful American mummies have created all these lists of words that your children, they feel, I'm sure it's actually not just American mummies. I think it's probably it's situational or maybe educational. But what they've done is you can type in, what's the vocab that my 7-year-old should know? What's the vocab that my whatever should know? And then you can create vocab jars. But what I like to do with my vocab jar is I like to throw in some emotion words like angry, excited, exuberant, you know, put in words that are going to have to make them think. And then what you do is you can pick out your emotion, your vocab words. So I've got dawn, gap, and astronomy. And then you talk about what those words mean. And then you might try and put them in a sentence. And then you might try and make up a story with those words in it. I don't actually currently have any emotional words in mine. I should probably add some. But then you can challenge your child to try and use the words during the day without anybody knowing. So how can your child use the word astronomy during the day without it sounding a bit odd? And then you chat about it in the evening. The other really lovely thing is talk jars, and I love them for many different reasons. But for talking about emotions and emotional situations is really nice. So in here are just prompts to promote conversation. They are not necessarily about your child. So one of the ones I've got here are, what are 3 of your strengths? What about other family members or your teacher or someone you admire? And you start talking and discussing it. You can also put facts in. A gorilla can live for 40 to 50 years. I didn't know that. And then you start talking about it. But what's quite nice about the talk jars is that you can put in perhaps a scenario that your child is going through that you can write about it from a third person or a TV star or somebody in a book or whatever, pop it in, and then you discuss it as though they're removed from the situation rather than going, come on, dear, let's sit down and talk about it when they really don't want to talk about anything. So I think that's quite a nice little tip and tool as well. I'm just going to read a couple of comments because people are writing to me. Very frustrated at the moment. Journaling, yeah, absolutely wonderful way. And if they're not at the point where they feel they can write like a stream of consciousness, get them to draw pictures, absolutely and completely. I think that's a really lovely strategy. Social communication of friendships upsets easily and takes a lot of time to convince once he's upset. Yeah. What happens is when our children are getting emotional, we have one brain, but a very powerful brain. We have a thinking brain, and then down here at the back of our neck, going into our spinal column, we have our primitive brain. The primitive brain is there to keep you safe. So it's the fight, flight, or freeze response. And when that is put into play, it's very, very hard to get your child back into their thinking brain, to be able to rationalize with them, talk to them, because they are in a red mist moment. Now, some of the things you can try, like the 3 Ps, so positive interaction, positive activity, or positive thinking. Now, in my experience, trying to get your child to think positively when they're in a red mist moment just makes them spiral even more. So I wouldn't go there. But you can do a positive activity, like such as, do you need a hug? Come over here, let's do some coloring, let's unload the dishwasher, let's do something to try and sidetrack their emotions, or just let them sit there and experience what's going on. What I think we need to do with emotions when we're working with kids is step back 3 steps. So we know that they're getting triggered. We know that they're overstimulated. We know that they're not coping in those social contexts and all the rest of it. But if we step back 3 places, we can put in some systems and ideas that mean that they don't actually get to that emotional dysregulation stage as easily, or that once they get there, they can bring themselves back down themselves. So I like to encourage families to look at creating in their own mind, maybe not share with their children, an emotion tracker or an emotion thermometer. So what is triggering your child's behavior? Take it over a 7-day period so you can get an experience of different days of the week and different activities. When are the emotions heightened? Is it going into school in the morning? Is it at the end of the day when they've got nothing left to give because their battery of energy has completely gone, yet they're going off to cubs and to brownies and to swimming and to karate and to this and to that? Is it because they're hungry? Is it because you've been away for work for a week and they haven't seen you? No, there's lots of things that factor in. But until we get some facts down from some observations and you being curious, it's very hard to sort of just pop in the appropriate thing to help. So I really do encourage this emotions tracker. And then I talked about the emotions thermometer. So is it when they are having a meltdown, like a cowpole moment that they've completely gone off the scale, or is it just a little blip? Because I think when we reflect back on emotions, we quite often are triggered ourselves. And so we perceive that the emotion is a 10 out of 10 every time. And actually, it might just be a 3 or a 4. It might be our emotions that are at a 7 or an 8, but not our child. So I think being curious and looking at it at a whole across, as I say, a 7-day period is a really, really nice thing to do. What I advocate more than anything is connection before correction. So how can you connect with your children before it gets to that emotional red mist moment that is going on? How can we show empathy to our children and their emotions, but rather than sympathy? So sympathy is when you are taking on and owning the emotions with your child. Empathy is the I see, I hear, I understand. You know something's going on, you're curious to what it is, and you want to help, but you are not owning their emotions, which I absolutely get is so hard as a parent or a carer and a teacher, helping children regulate what's going on for them. Okay, I think the other thing I sort of would be remiss if I didn't mention is that we as a society are quite quick to try and get our children to move on from their emotions quite quickly. Oh, you will be okay. Yes, of course it's going to be fine. Oh, come on, just give me a smile. And actually, what we want is the emotions to come out. Now, I've worked with children, my own daughter is the case as well at times, when the emotions can just keep bubbling and you're giving them space and you're giving them a loving presence and you're offering them hugs and you're offering them whatever you need, the 3 Ps, to help them get them back into their thinking brain, and they're still going. And at this point, obviously, as long as it is safe to do so, you may have to make a judgment. Do they just need to cry it out? Do they just need to hit a pillow? What does your child need to get the emotion out? Most of the time, it's about physically moving their body. So if you can get them jumping on a trampoline, running around the block, going up and down stairs, even moving them from one room to the next room, moving their physical energy helps their emotions. And I don't know why I'm talking. There's lots of research out of there, but it is a movement that can help move them on literally physically. The other thing you can do is you can say, okay, I understand you're sad. I absolutely get that this is a really frustrating moment. I get frustrated as well when that kind of thing happens to me. How about we give ourselves 10 minutes? Here's a timer, 10 minutes, and then we are going to go and we're going to go and make dinner, or we're going to get an ice cream, or we're going to cuddle up on the sofa. So giving it a time limit is also quite nice. What I would want to mention, oh gosh, we're flying towards the end of this session, is I think as a parent and carer, my biggest growth came from recognizing my own triggers. So what triggered me to react to my child in a certain way? And when I understood that better, I was able to parent from a different place. And sometimes when we are stressed, when we are overwhelmed, when we are tired, because we are human, we are absolutely and completely human. I'm not asking you to be Mary Poppins. It's just not going to happen. And if you are, please come and reach out. I'd love to know your secret. But we are human, and we do have default behaviors. So you might be a shouter, you might be a lecturer, you might go quiet. Whatever is your default behavior comes up generally when you're triggered. So if you understand what triggers you, you can step in the way of your own default behavior. What a really lovely way to do this, and again for tweens and teens it works quite nicely as well, is there is research about the brain and the emotions taking roughly 5 seconds before they collide. Now it can be a very quick 5 seconds, but if you can just take a really deep breath and then count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you are then making a conscious decision about how you are going to react to your children rather than going back to your default. So I think that's something that I want you to reflect on. I'm just going to rattle off some quick ideas here around how we can help our children with their emotions. Breathing, just what I just did then. Breathing through your nose, so you're getting the breath from the chest where the emotions are felt down into the belly. So, and then is really, really powerful, and it will help regulate them, although it doesn't always work when your child is in a heightened emotional state. How can you problem solve with your child? And you might want to do this when everything is calmer. So, you know, when you get to this point where you are overwhelmed, anxious, nervous, frustrated, all that kind of stuff, what could you do instead? And you brainstorm in a time of peace, so that when you are in that heightened emotional state, you can say to your child, this is what you wanted to try this time. And they'll probably throw it back at you, but at least you've had a conversation around how that could look and what's going on. Distraction is a really good thing. So while you're encouraging them to breathe, tell me 5 things you can see. Now that might be too much for some children. Tell me 5 red things that you can see in a room. Obviously pick a color of things that there is in that room rather than picking, I don't know, fluorescent orange and there's nothing. So pick a color that would help distract them. 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things that you can smell. Can you taste anything in this room? And by doing this, we are bringing them from that heightened emotional state back down into the present moment, which then was getting them back into their thinking brain, where we can offer them a hug, we can offer them comfort, and then we can problem solve our way through it to see how we can support them. I think it's absolutely okay to take a break from your child if they are in a heightened emotional state, as long as it is safe to do so and they are no harm to themselves or others. So to actually say to them, look, I just need a minute to gather my thoughts, to think about how I'm going to support you, and then I will be right back. Walk away so that you can just calm yourself. They can also calm themselves, and then you come back. You might want to have like a calm down kit. And in fact, I didn't get it off my shelf, but you might be able to see it at the top. It's a basket of just calm down things. I've got like, what's it called? Bubble wrap in there. I've got coloring. I've got Play-Doh so that they can really get their frustration out on the Play-Doh. I've got mindfulness cards if they wanted to pick an activity. I've got some essential oils if they wanted to smell some things. So there's quite a lot in my calm down kit. I've got fidget toys. I've got some Lego, because actually sometimes just involving their brain in another way is quite useful. So that a calm down kit is a really lovely idea. Now, I know I'm sorry, everyone, I'm just going to speak for another couple of minutes. But I think with this time of year, I think we also need to be really mindful that our kids are tired. They may not come across tired, but emotions are an overthing of tiredness. And so think about if that's true for your children. Think about if your kids need downtime built in. Routines need to be consistent. Children thrive on routines and rhythms and flows. And as I say, in schools right now, it is quite all over the place with lots of wonderful things, but the rhythm and the flow is not quite what it was. And so that is really, really important. How can you possibly take things out of your Christmas diary that you put in to allow some time for your children just to recharge their batteries as well? So how can you find time for family connection? And it's not just rushing them to the next activity, it's actually purposeful, mindful, present connection. So there were just a few of my thoughts on emotions. I say this every time, so those people who are listening and have heard me speak before, I could speak for hours on this topic. I'm really passionate about helping our children regulate their emotions and to be more in control of what's going on for them, because I feel it really is a gift that we give our children as they move into adulthood. I absolutely also get that this is a very top level discussion and it's not going to hit for each of you and your families and perhaps your specific needs. So I do encourage you, if there's something you want more information from me, book in for a free call, send me an email, ping me a private message. I'm here for you. While I just take a sip of water, let me know in the chat box something that you have taken away from today. I do appreciate I've been talking rather fast and I have been going like the clappers, but I would love to know what your takeaway was from today. Someone sent me a message. Okay, so someone has messaged me and said that when the child gets angry, they say things like, I hate mummy, I hate daddy. And is this something that they need to worry about? Do they need to respond? I would say that is attention-seeking behavior, because as soon as they say it, you go, of course you're loved. Of course I love you so dearly, darling. No, you're not. Or whatever you do that's appropriate for your child. And so I don't want you to ignore your children either. But you could say something simply like, well, I feel differently, or I know that I love you, and move on. Don't try and go into a lecture on why they're loved and why they're so amazing. Just acknowledge the fact that you feel something different and actually you do love them very much, and move on. That would be my thinking there. Okay, so someone's takeaway is looking at their own triggers. Great idea about having a calm down box, brainstorming after they've calmed down, the emotional thermometer, making sure they have wind down over the Christmas period, the I see, I hear, I understand, calm down kit, gosh, I'll find my teeth, emotion and talk jars, a physical aid always seems to help their child, amazing. Being able to let my child know I need to think and come back, absolutely and completely. As you say, very, very important that you let them know the boundary. I need to go and calm down. I will be back. Give them the boundary that you're coming back and you're going to give them your time. You just need to regulate yourself. Control versus influence, emotions. Gosh, you've got so many. Ted Lasso, you are absolutely right. Whoever's made that comment, be curious, not judgmental. That was like a light bulb moment for me in my coaching journey. Absolutely. Ted Lasso is amazing. Influence versus control, activity jar, calm down box. Someone is talking about the issues arising from technology, and I think, absolutely and completely, you are correct. I think there's lots of research out there. I'm not going to go down there today. I will create you a clinic all about screens and that kind of stuff, because I think it really is an important topic for us to discuss. But I hear you and I acknowledge, I think you're right. I think a connection and correction, breathing, gosh, so many, so many, so many. I'm just going to put one more poll up. Look at me. I've got like the poll. I've got the poll bug. Now I've learned how to do them after what, I don't know, about 5 years of using Zoom. I'm now going to Yeah, you're going to be sick of them. But I would just like to know how you felt that this was a good use of your time. I am a one-woman band. I do work for myself, and so your feedback to me is really, really important. As I said, I do acknowledge that I can't answer all of your questions personally, but if there is something that I can do to help, please let me know. I'm going to be launching the new spring term clinics soon, so I will let you guys know first what's happening. All I can say is thank you so much for listening in. I'm really, really grateful for your time, your energy, and your enthusiasm for this topic and wanting to help your children. Have a safe, festive season, whatever that looks like for you and your family. And as I say, if I can help further, you will have my contact details, and please do reach out and come back to me. Have a safe Christmas, everybody. Oh, that's a really lovely thing to say. Thank you. Helpful insights as ever. So glad to have found your sessions. Well, yeah, I'm going to stop the recording so people can't see me just making random comments. So if you are listening to the replay, please do reach out if I can help further, or if you've got any insights you want to share.